Good morning, everybody. Start your day with DawgsHQ special live. Me and Rusty Mansell here talking about a wild, chaotic, but not surprising. Got mine too, man. Not surprising day one for Georgia in the transfer portal. I don't think. I want to get your take, Rusty. Any surprises there from day one for you?
In the Georgia market or as a whole?
Shoot, as a whole. I mean, this thing's nebulous.
Dylan Gabriel going in, I think, kind of surprised me as far as you know, Kyle McCord, maybe Ohio
Yeah.
State's a situation like that. Ohio State had to say, look, we're going to bring in another quarterback. You can stay here and compete, or you can, I think that's a conversation that probably took place. You just don't all of a sudden on a Monday morning decide, hey, I'm leaving Ohio State as a quarterback. Something else,
Right.
another conversation was had there. But Dylan Gabriel, that kind of surprised me. And, it's not going to, probably stop anytime soon. I think everyone, we broke the news yesterday on Brock Vandagriff leaving Georgia. I don't think that was unexpected by most. I got a few things I can say behind the scenes on that. I heard there was a really good conversation between he and Kirby Smart, and I think that Kirby Smart kind of understands that he wants to go somewhere else, try to get a fresh start. And he could have stayed at Georgia. He certainly could have stayed at Georgia. Now, he didn't get run off by any means. He could have stayed at Georgia and continue to compete for whatever time is available at Georgia. But I talked to Brock this time last year. You remember the rumors were going around he was going to leave last year. And Prince Avenue played in the state championship last year. And I walked up to Brock on the sideline. Hey, how you doing? His dad was coaching. And he goes, look, man, these rumors are everywhere. And I said, okay. And I said, what's going on? He said, I'm not leaving. I'm going to get my degree from the University of Georgia. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And, I'll see how this football thing plays out. I'm here to compete, but I'm going to get my degree. He's going to get his degree, I think, next week. So, all the things that are right about college football is that decision. He stayed and got his degree, and now he can go wherever he wants to go because of this market, this portal. He can go somewhere where he thinks he's got an opportunity to be the guy day one, and that's what's right about this situation, this particular case with Brock.
I agree. And listen, I may find it way more profound than anybody else, but when I'm at the Masters this spring on a what day was I there? I think I was there on a Thursday, something like that.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, whatever day I was there. And I come out and, I'd forgotten I'd taken my phone up there and they made me check it. So I checked my phone. I get out to check my phone. And there's this whole big text thread that we've got at DawgsHQ. And it's like, hey, Brock Vandagriff. And they're sending Brock Vandagriff and Carson Beck up. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm supposed to have the day off, but they're giving us both quarterbacks. I got to go. So I shot back to Athens and was there in time for media availability. And I got to hear him interview for the first time since he's been at Georgia. And one of the things that he said, I'm so glad I kind of went back to that because it really was a different feel in the room. Is he said, if I didn't feel like I was getting better, I would have already been gone.
Yeah.
And man, I thought that was such a mature way to say it and look at it. In a lot of ways, a coach's son's way of looking at it. You never heard a single word out of his dad, while Carson Beck waited either, really out of his dad either. Like there was no drama or anything like that. They just went at it. And listen, he came back after last season to have a chance to compete for the job.
Yeah.
And competed through spring. And I'm pretty sure we all saw G-Day and thought this is going to be Carson Beck's job. I mean, like it's going to be a very long shot to steal this job from him. But at that point, he had a chance to be like, all right, I can be limited in there's 13 schools I cannot transfer to.
Yep.
If I leave at the end of spring, or I can stay at Georgia, be the backup, be one snap away. And then at the end of that semester, I'll have a Georgia degree, a degree from basically my hometown school. And then I can go where the heck I want. And he's doing it that way. And, I have no doubt that it was a very, very cordial, respectful, awesome conversation with Kirby Smart, at that point. And Good on him. I think he did a great. And listen, he's not the only instance of that. There are other guys, moving on from Georgia that waited and did their thing here for a long time. I mean, Jackson Meeks, basically, balled out on special teams, was a special teams demon, and blocked his tail off whenever he was called upon. He's in the portal now. Austin Blasky, like Vandegrift, has been around for 4 years, and he's going to get his degree. And having taken a red shirt this year because of some injuries and illness, he's going to have 2 years to play. So, that brings us back to the question of whether there was anything surprising on Georgia's end. And 6 players is a lot, but none of it surprises you.
There'll be, 4 or 5 more, you think, probably? We probably think that would go at some point.
I would be surprised if not probably just as many as we've already seen. I think we may get to 6 or 7. And it's got to happen, right? Doesn't it? I mean, it's got to happen. Georgia got 27, 28 commitments in the current class. We talked about it on the Georgia show on Sunday. They might add 6 to 8 guys in the transfer portal too. So you got to lose some. You got to figure out a way to kind of flip over this roster and get it to the point where you need it at positions of need.
Yeah. Question there, Scott Bourne, I believe. Morning, Scott. When do players have to declare for the draft? They have to declare for the draft in January. What the timing difference now is Kirby Smart needs to know, because the portal is open and closes January the 4th. So he needs to know he needs to have a really good pulse on where you are, because, for example, if Carson Beck is leaving, he needs to know pretty soon, because, in my opinion, Georgia's going to be in a quarterback portal. They're going to be in the portal market for a quarterback. And they open up with Clemson next year in Mercedes-Benz. So they're not going to mess around. I feel like Gunnar Stockton has a really good chance at this job, and likely, kind of having to step on everybody else. But I would be surprised if Carson Beck leaves now that Brock Vandegrift is going to be off campus, if Georgia doesn't at least take a good hard look in that portal and say, what's available experience-wise, more importantly. Because I can tell you, Georgia will be attractive because of this offensive line that's coming back.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like I'm with you. It's kind of like, will Georgia take a quarterback in the portal if Carson Beck leaves? And we still don't know that. We've got some intel on that over at DawgsHQ. I don't know. I think they probably will. I don't think it's set in stone. Yeah. So I don't want people out there saying, well, Georgia just doesn't. They're not going to take a warm body. I do know that, because I do know they like Gunnar Stockton a lot. But it's one of those things where if they do get a guy, and I got another point after this, but if they do get a guy, he's not going to be a guy with a barrels and barrels of entitlement, because he's going to have to come in and compete for the job with a guy who knows that system really well after sitting in it in 2 years. And on top of all that, the silver lining, listen, Kirby Smart would love to be preparing for the playoff right now. He would love to be kind of watching film on other teams in the playoff. But if there is a tiny silver lining, it is that he gets to have all of these discussions with some finality, because these discussions are immensely tough to have when you don't know that there are some players you're just not going to know, because they got 2 games left, 2 big games left, 2 games to change the course of where they might go in the NFL draft or what they might do. So, ultimately, I'm sure he's at least thankful for that one piece.
All right. So we've been doing this for a couple of years now. It's the open period right now. It's open contact period for 2 weeks. That means coaches in a very small window, including head coaches, can be on the road during this window. What do we see on social media out of Kirby Smart during the open contact period?
Kirby Copter.
The Kirby Copter.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Kirby Copter?
I have not.
You haven't seen the Kirby Copter because Kirby's dealing with his roster.
Yeah.
And the roster management right now is he's trying to keep his 2024 season as strong as he can, because they've got the number one class in the country in recruiting. They're finishing up some guys. I'm going to make some notes on DawgsHQ in about an hour, and you're going to kind of understand where Georgia is, because you used to have, in a weekend like this, Georgia would have 7 to 10 OVs from high school prospects. Wait till you see these notes I put out here in about an hour on DawgsHQ, and you'll kind of understand what is going on. But you're not going to see Kirby copter right now. You're going to see Kirby's lights on in his office because he is meeting with his players.
And I had a parent tell me yesterday, I'm not a parent of a kid that transferred, but a parent of a kid that might be going out of Georgia this year, told me that, you know, I don't know if this was from a conversation with Kirby, but this time of year, obviously it's really stressful. But I think there's a part of this that Kirby enjoys because he's getting a chance after a long football season that's been extremely busy. There are some guys that he's poured into that have been around this program for a while that he's going to get to sit down and spend some time with. And, you know, that it's tough to do that to the point that you like, especially over the last 5 or 6 months. You know, there are some guys that probably haven't gotten to have one-on-one conversations with Kirby and other coaches. And I'm sure that he appreciates the idea that there's some guys going to be sitting in a chair in his office and they get to talk about life for a little bit. I mean, they can't be hour, 2 hour, 3 hour conversations in most instances. But I'm sure as a head coach and as somebody that I know, listen, we can talk about how competitive Kirby is and how driven Kirby is and how attention to detail and aggressive and all of that, process driven. There's never been a doubt in my mind that he loves these guys. He brings these guys in. He has a lot of love for his players, and I'm sure that part of him is very thankful that he gets to. And another thing I bet he's very thankful of is that they have as many commitments as they have, and that there's not about a third of this class up in the air at this point too, Rusty. I bet he's real happy about that.
He might group hug that group of the gear. I want to answer a question here. Morning, Charles Clark. Any interest in the Georgia State running back in the portal? Marcus Carroll, I believe is his name. He came from Hateville Charter. Had a chance to watch him in high school, and tough ass kid. If I can say ass on here, tough ass kid from a program that they're physical kids at Hateville Charter.
You just said it 3 times.
Sorry, I get fined by the YouTube police. I'll put it on Palmer Tom's account. I don't think Georgia's interested there, but I will say that's a really good player, Marcus Carroll. A little bit of a slasher type player. I think Georgia's looking for a hammer, and somebody that can really, you know, Dale McGee. One thing about Dale McGee, he's like bigger backs. You look at Branson Robinson, Kendall Milton, all these guys. You know, but is a good. I mentioned about you, Charles. I think Marcus Carroll's a good player, and there'll be some interest on him. I do think Georgia's going to take a look in the transfer portal once the running backs start to settle in and those type of things. They need an experienced guy, in my opinion, there too.
Now, real quick, going to recap all the Georgia players in the transfer portal because, you know, we only got a couple more minutes here. But so Darius Smith entered before the Alabama game. You had Jackson Meeks, Brock Vandegrift, C.J. Madden, Austin Blasky, and Jonathan Jefferson all entered. That's 2 outside linebackers at this point, a defensive lineman, a quarterback, an offensive lineman, and a wide receiver. So, Rusty, listen, we're dropping notes over at DawgsHQ. I dropped a note on Carson Beck. You've got one. You had one last night that I thought was really, really eye-opening. You know, we've got some stuff over there. You got to come check it out. But before we let everybody go, let's kind of recap what we expect Georgia to do in the transfer portal, because I don't think we've made it much of a secret. Obviously, multiple offensive linemen and wide receivers. Give us something on that and maybe where else Georgia looks.
I would list in priority D-line. I mean,
yeah.
I think
that's what I meant, defensive line, not offensive line. Sorry.
Defensive line in priority. And you know what Georgia really didn't have this year, and listen, it doesn't come every year. It just is what it is. But, you know, you get into a game against Alabama and they really push Georgia around on the inside. They didn't have that 6'6", 335, 340-pound anchor. You know what I mean? And Nazir Stackhouse had to play so many snaps against Alabama on Saturday. I mean, that dude was gassed by the time it got down to crunch time. And I'm certainly that's something Georgia. I think Georgia's got to get a couple of interior guys, and I think they got to stay in the wide receiver portal. Which, for the great news, the wide receiver position is by far the deepest. I mean, it's crazy. It's gotten better this year. I mean.
And D-line's up there too. D-line is up there too because of just sheer numbers.
Yeah. So D-line D-line will be another big priority. I think that it's got to have some players there. Got to have a big guy there. And I'm not giving up on Jamal Jarrett. That's a guy that I think that is going to get a big look in the spring, and I think he needed a year. He just needed a year to get his weight under control and be able to play at the pace they kind of require. So you don't give up.
Also a young cat. Also, kind of young on the whole scale of things, because I believe he didn't turn – I don't think he turns 18 until this past summer, so he was barely 18 when he got to Georgia.
Yeah. Same way with Michael Morris. Michael Morris played his first college football game at 17 years old. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But listen, we put some notes up on DawgsHQ. I think there's one wide receiver name you need to know right now. I think there's one wide receiver name you need to know before this weekend, and I'm going to give you another note in a little while. There's one wide receiver note you better know before tomorrow. So there's some wide receivers there, and I think Georgia with Sakovi White and Tuggle out of Indiana, I think they're going to stay with those two kids in high school and then try to bring in 2 to 3 in the portal, and that's just the way it is now.
Yeah, it's one of them. If a fish jumps in the boat in the 2024 class, if it's the right fish, they won't throw him back. But otherwise, it's going to be kind of tough to spend the resources there. Listen, we're going to have covered over at DawgsHQ. Come join us. It's on fire over there, and we're really excited to cover the news, because that's kind of what we live for, is to cover this team, cover the news, and we have it all for you there. But for this special episode of I don't even know what it is, live DawgsHQ on YouTube.
I just got a text you drinking wine. It's not wine. That's it's way too early for wine. That person just texted me. You be worried about other things right now.
Those tannins. Everybody thinks that dark stuff in that clear cup. That's why you got to have a cup with that's not clear. It's like a college professor told me one time.
I can't be sleepy this early in the morning with some extra wine on me.
The late Barry Hollander at Georgia and this Grady School of Journalism told me no clear cups in my office, buddy. For a reason. He likes scotch. But all right, everybody, y'all take care. Come on over to DawgsHQ, and we've got you covered.